Andor on 4K Blu-ray Steelbook. Is it worth it? Or should you just watch it on Disney Plus? Let's discuss. Whoosh. All right, first let's just go over the packaging itself. Like I said, it's a Steelbook, which is awesome. Yep. So it's nice and rigid. I don't have a ton of Steelbooks, but when I do get the chance to get a Steelbook, it just adds a little bit more flavor to just your typical jewel case or slipcover or whatever. Inside you'll find this postcard. It's of the labor camp that Cassian Andor finds himself in the later episodes. Pretty cool. I don't know if it's necessary, but whatever. But yeah, artwork is cool. And then on the back, sweet. Since it is Steelbook, it does have a nice sheen to it. On the inside, it's just your discs, pretty much. There's 3 altogether. There's 2 here and there's 1 in my 4K Blu-ray player right now. But there is no digital copy. So this is purely for physical media fans who want the physical copy. I mean, sure, if you have a Zadu or Arvolution media player, something like that, you could just rip this to that if you want for convenience sake. But yeah, pretty cool. Okay, as far as the disc menus are concerned, just look at this. It's pretty cool. It's got these scenes that go by, kind of a slideshow. You can play all the episodes. You can go to specific episode, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Yeah, there's 12 episodes in all. So 3 discs, 4 episodes each. Audio setup, Atmos 2.0 descriptive audio for the visually impaired, French 5.1 and Spanish 5.1. Subtitles, again, English, French, and Spanish. And you can even have the menu system be in French or Spanish. At least that's how it is with the US release. And disc 1 is the only one with extras, behind the scenes, etc. You've got Ferrex Part 1, Aldani, Rebel Heist, Coruscant, Whispers of Rebellion, Narkina 5, One Way Out, and Ferrex Part 2, Fight the Empire. But the rest of the discs do not have any extras, just so you know. It's just disc 1. Disc 2 and 3 just have the episodes and audio setup and stuff like that. So pretty cool that the extras are there. Me personally, I always love a good behind the scenes documentary because I love to see how things are made. Once upon a time, I wanted to be a filmmaker. So things like that just really interest me. That pretty much covers what's on the disc menu. Pretty cool. I know some people out there just didn't really get into Andor because it was kind of a slow burn compared to the other Disney Star Wars series out there. But that's the intention of the creator. He wanted to tell the story in 3 episode arcs. So the first arc deals with Cassian's escape from Ferrex. The second arc, episodes 4 through 6, are the arc of the incident on Aldani and stealing the payroll from the Empire. Episodes 7 through 9 is when Cassian gets taken to the labor camp and eventually the escape from that labor camp. And episodes 10 through 12 lead up to the funeral / riot that happens on Ferrex. But yeah, it's all by design. It's just, I love this series so much because it's such good build-up, character development, building up tension, especially to those pivotal moments at the end of those 3 episode arcs. And the payoffs of those arcs are just tremendous. It's just so well done. It is by far my personal favorite series out of all of the Star Wars that have come out on Disney+. It's just great storytelling with compelling characters getting into compelling situations that are engaging to the viewer, and it just happens to take place in the Star Wars universe. That's what I think sets this one apart from all the rest of them. It just seems like all the other ones are pandering to the Star Wars audience with callbacks and certain references, whatever. Whereas Andor just kind of takes place in its own little world, introducing you to all these characters that you had never previously met. There's no talk of the Force. There are no lightsabers. It's just gripping stories that are also happening while all the other Star Wars stuff is going on. I mean, I could gush about this for hours, but all right. One thing I do need to say that I kind of find a little bit annoying is that the beginning of every episode starts with a previously on Andor little section, right? When you're watching it on Disney Plus, you can just skip past that, but you can't on the disc. So if you're deciding to binge through all of these, it's a little bit annoying to have to fast forward through that stuff, because there's also another kind of annoying thing about the discs, is that the chapters are just the episodes themselves. So if you were to take your Blu-ray player remote and skip forward, it skips to the next episode. There are no chapter markers within the episodes themselves that you can skip to. It's just episode, episode, episode. So it was a little bit annoying doing this review where I couldn't skip to a specific chapter within an episode. I would have to fast forward to it. So yeah, kind of annoying if you're reviewing something like I am, but I bet for the most part, if you're just gonna watch the episode, it's not gonna be that big of a deal. But say if you wanted to like show your buddies or something a particular scene in an episode, kind of annoying how you have to fast forward to it. You can't just skip to a particular chapter. So just wanted to put that out there just so you all know. Some of you may care or not even care at all that that is an issue. All right, let's get into some video quality aspects. So right off the bat, what I will say is that Disney Plus's ability to compress a video signal and send it to wherever you are in 4K crisp quality, what they're able to accomplish is pretty remarkable. As I'm putting up some of these stills that I got, which I took with my iPhone in the RAW setting so that I could get as many pixels as I possibly could. As far as like crispness and detail, they're both pretty similar. One thing to note though is that side by side, you can kind of tell that the Disney Plus version just has this very, very faint washed out layer to it. Seeing some of these stills side by side, you can see that the 4K disc version just has a little bit of a bump in saturation. The colors are a little bit more vibrant, you could say. Even the dark parts just have a little bit more information in there, and deeper darks, deeper blacks. So you're going to get a slight bump in HDR quality for sure. The highlights seem to be kind of on par with each other, Disney Plus versus 4K Blu-ray. But yeah, it's the midtones, it's the darks. That's where having that extra information on the 4K disc helps. But I get it. Convenience wins most of the time, so most people are going to be okay with the Disney Plus version. But having that much more data traveling over that HDMI cable will get you a better HDR experience. But another thing I want to note that even though I've taken pictures with this iPhone with its raw capabilities and so many megapixels, there is still something that a camera, a 2D camera, cannot capture. I hit on this also when I compared the HBO version of Game of Thrones to the 4K Blu-ray version, and that is a sense of depth. It is just something that your brain picks up on. One of the things that you're missing with the compression with video codecs is that it eliminates some of the depth. My brain is able to interpret just a better sense of depth to a scene that has people in the foreground, you got your backgrounds, maybe something in the middle ground traveling from one side of the screen to the other, whatever. So obviously in the end, there's going to be a very small percentage of people like me who prefer those little bumps in quality over the Disney Plus streaming version. The better HDR performance, the better saturation and vibrance of the colors, deeper blacks, etc. But I get it. In a blind test, if you just showed me a screenshot of the Disney Plus version, would I be able to tell that it's Disney Plus versus 4K Blu-ray? Probably not. But if you were to show them side by side, then yes, I could say, oh yeah, that one's a little bit more washed out, so that's the Disney Plus version. You know, there needs to be a reference for me to really see the difference. Again, it comes down to convenience. And money, because obviously if you already have a Disney Plus subscription, you don't have to pay extra to watch Andor, you just watch it. But obviously I had to drop some money to get Andor on 4K Blu-ray. which I got at Walmart, which was 44 something, almost $45. It was on sale because it just come out. I think the retail price was $55. So it may be $45 still at this point, who knows? Or possibly go on sale sometime later this year, whatever. So yeah, that's what I have to say about the picture quality. Subtle differences, but to me it's worth it. All right, so as far as the audio is concerned, yeah, when you're watching it on Disney Plus, you're getting the Dolby Digital Plus Atmos version, which is compressed, lossy. And on the 4K Blu-ray, you are getting the uncompressed Dolby True HD Atmos version. But I will say this again, Disney Plus's ability to compress the audio and send it miles and miles to wherever you're watching it, they do a pretty good job. It is still immersive, it is still engaging, it still rumbles this theater room, the bass response is still present. Although I will say Andor in particular isn't necessarily like the most bombastic audio mix out there. Again, because it's a slow burn and it's character driven as opposed to action driven and blah, blah, blah. But I will say this, man, when I watched it on Disney Plus, the TIE fighters especially didn't have as much of an impact, especially in my chest. In the story arc where they're on Aldhani, episodes 4 through 6, it's lush green hillsides and they're traveling through valleys and canyons and stuff. And every once in a while, the TIE fighters are just on patrol and they'll have to like hide and make sure they're not seen by the TIE fighters as they pass over. But there are a few times during those Aldhani episodes where it's just, you can like kind of barely hear the TIE fighter in the distance. And then all of a sudden it just whoosh, just comes on screen in a blaze of glory. And man, I'm just pressed back against my seat. I don't think I've ever heard TIE fighters have that much of an impact, to be honest. But not only that, it shook this room when the TIE fighter flew over. Because, you know, I'm watching it in my chair and I've got my calves pressed against the chair. I could feel it rumble in my calves. I could feel it rumble in my chest. Not so much in the Disney Plus version. Yeah, I could feel the subwoofers engage, sure. But just that extra bit of oomph was only present in the 4K Blu-ray version. And like the still that I showed you earlier in episode 3 where Cassian and Luthen are escaping Ferrix, and when Luthen detonates the decoy, again, I felt it in my calves, I felt it in my chest, it shook the room. Not as much in the Disney Plus version. So with Disney Plus in particular, I think the audio streaming bit rate is 600, 700 some odd kilobits per second versus a few megabits per second on the 4K Blu-ray disc. That's just kind of what you're getting with that extra data. Deeper rumbles, more impact, and just a little bit more aggressive bass response. So with that being said, unlike the picture quality where if you just blindly showed me a still from the Disney Plus version, I probably wouldn't be able to tell. But with the audio, I probably could tell you that it was the 4K Blu-ray version because of what I mentioned before. I could feel it in my calves. I could feel it in my chest. As opposed to the Disney Plus version where I just kind of felt it in the floor. Does that make sense? Another standout with the audio is every time they are in the labor camp in episodes 7 through 9, every single time they're working, trying to assemble those pieces of whatever they're working on, those scenes are so immersive, both on Disney Plus and the disc. Because just all around you, man, you've got chatter from all the other people in the room working on their stuff. You got tools and ratchet sounds going, and it's just constant. It's great. Those scenes are truly immersive. You just feel like you're literally in the middle of the scene because you've got it all around you. As far as Atmos height information is concerned, it's not the most active height mix that I've ever heard. Although a standout part of the story is episode 6, when the eye is happening, when they've got those crystals that are going and burning up in the atmosphere overhead. Those are cool because not only do you hear it over your head, but it also just kind of reverberates through the canyon that they're in. So it really just kind of brings you into that scene. It's cool. But it's nothing that's like constantly going on. But other than that, I mean, yeah, whenever there are spaceships involved, man, those really get those subwoofers going. Dialogue clarity, again, on the 4K Blu-ray disc, just has this slight little bump in intelligibility. These days, where it seems like you need subtitles on everything you watch on streaming, I didn't have the subtitles on at all. I mean, granted, this is an 11 by 16 by 9 room, and I'm sitting about 7 feet away from the center channel speaker. So obviously everything is calibrated well enough to where I just don't need subtitles and I can hear the dialogue. But there's just this tiny little bit extra weight you get with the dialogue when watching it on the 4K Blu-ray disc. So yeah, that's really my summary of the audio and video together. You're just gonna get slight boosts in color, HDR quality, bass response, dialogue clarity. But one other thing I do want to stress, and I pretty much do this every time that I talk about disc versus streaming, this is mine. If for some reason down the road they decide to pull Andor because somebody got canceled or something, they can't cancel this. I got it. It's in my collection. It'll remain in my collection, and that's that. But more importantly, when the zombie apocalypse happens and the internet shuts down, I still have my entertainment. Especially on my property where we're completely off grid. So even if the electrical grid went down because of a zombie apocalypse, we'd still have power because it's all solar powered. So yeah, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. These subtle differences may not be enough to justify buying Andor for $45 or $55. To most of you out there, I bet, whatever, I get it. But I do think overall, the 4K Blu-ray disc is better. So get your copy today. Thank you for joining me on this comparison of Andor on Disney Plus in 4K Blu-ray. Now it's your turn. Are you a physical media enthusiast like I am? Are those subtle differences not enough to justify the extra expense? Are you prepared to have entertainment when the zombie apocalypse happens? Let's start a conversation in the comments below, people. As always, this world is crazy as it is already, so it just makes sense to be kind to one another out there. Don't just watch TV and movies, possibly on 4K Blu-ray discs, experience them in the best quality possible. And of course, always be listening